She tightened her grip on the wheel, her fingers aching from too many hours of driving. The name on her screen blinked again, Logan R. She breathed out, slow and heavy, and accepted the ride. Her voice came out steady, though her chest felt hollow. Are you Logan? He looked up, eyes unfocused, mouth barely moving. I just want to go home. No small talk. No explanation. Just that one line. She nodded once and started the car. The hum of the tires filled the space between them. He sat in the back, quiet, his breathing uneven. Jennifer's mind drifted to Lucas, milk for the morning, shoes getting too small, his smile when she read to him. Another mile, another hour. Just one more fare. He shifted slightly, head turning toward the window. Do you ever feel like everyone's pretending? Her hand stayed on the wheel. More than you'd think. A small silence followed. It wasn't cold, just tired. Like two people who'd run out of places to hide. When the car finally slowed to a stop, he had already fallen asleep, his head tilted to the side. She stared at him for a moment, that undone bow tie, the quiet in his face. Then she reached back, pulled her old denim jacket from the seat, and laid it over him without a word. She stepped out, pressed the intercom, and said softly, I brought Mr. Reed home. He's asleep in the car. As they came to take him inside, she got back behind the wheel and drove off, leaving the night behind her like it owed her nothing. The question came out of nowhere, low and unsteady. Do you ever feel like everyone's pretending? Jennifer didn't look back. More than you'd think. Nothing followed. Just breath. The kind that trembles when someone's trying to hold something in. She kept her eyes forward, fingers tight on the wheel. There was nothing to fix, nothing to say. Just a stranger speaking the kind of truth that usually stays buried. She heard the sound of his jacket shifting, then silence again. When the car slowed near the gate, she turned slightly. His head had fallen to the side, eyes closed, sleep softening everything sharp about him. She hesitated. For a second, she almost reached out, then stopped. He didn't need words, he needed rest. She pulled her worn denim jacket from the seat, the one she used when the heater failed, and placed it gently across his chest. Rain tapped against the hood. She stepped out, pressed the intercom button, and said quietly, I brought Mr. Reed home. He's asleep in the car. Someone answered, footsteps hurried down the drive, and within moments he was gone, carried through a doorway she'd never walked through. Jennifer slid back behind the wheel. Her hands trembled slightly, though she wasn't cold. She started the car and pulled away, her reflection vanishing in the mirror before she could see what she'd left behind. He woke to a dull ache in his head and a strange stillness in his chest. The suit jacket on the chair wasn't his. He reached for it, confused, and found a note tucked beneath the sleeve. I brought you home safely. No extra charge. Sleep well. Jennifer G. He read it once, then again. Something about the handwriting, plain, careful, real, stirred a feeling he couldn't name. Most people wanted a piece of him. This woman had left nothing but a borrowed kindness. By noon, that quiet tug wouldn't let go. He searched her name on the rideshare app, memorized the plate number, then drove himself across town. The diner was small, alive with the rhythm of people getting by. He saw her behind the counter, pouring coffee with the same calm he'd felt in the car. When she turned and recognized him, her hands froze midair. You looked like someone who needed a little kindness, she said after a beat, her voice even, almost shy. He smiled faintly. Then you gave it. He offered to take her to lunch, half teasing, half serious. She shook her head, wiping her hands on her apron. I'd turn down lunch with the president if it meant being late for Lucas. He laughed, honest, sudden, unpolished. A sound that startled even him. For the first time in years, it felt like the world wasn't watching, and someone finally saw the man instead of the name. He started requesting rides he didn't need, short trips, long detours, anywhere the app might send her. Most times it didn't. But when her name flashed on his screen, he felt something in his chest settle. She never asked why he rode so often. He never told her. Their quiet became a language. One night, her voice broke it. "Left when I was 7 months pregnant," she said, eyes on the road. Said he wasn't ready to be a dad. Logan didn't speak. "I came home from work and half the apartment was gone." He wanted to say something that mattered but knew silence could hold more comfort than words. She glanced at him through the mirror. "You ever feel like you got used to being alone?" He nodded slightly. She looked forward again. "That's the loneliest kind of home." He watched her for a moment, how she spoke without needing sympathy. And he realized, he didn't want to save her, he just didn't want to stop hearing her voice. Every ride ended the same, a thank you, a nod, and the quiet pull of two people pretending it was still just business. Her phone buzzed once, sharp and urgent. She read the message, and the color drained from her face. Lucas had a fever. She tried to steady her breath, hands shaking against the steering wheel. "I need to go," Logan said quickly. "I'll drive." She looked back at him, torn between fear and pride. "You don't have to." "I know," he cut in, his voice quiet but certain. "But I want to." She hesitated only a second before nodding. The switch between them was wordless, her seatbelt unclicked, his hands taking the wheel. He drove fast but steady, no hesitation, no panic. She gave directions through short, broken sentences. At the hospital, she jumped out before the car stopped fully, running inside with Lucas in her arms. Logan stayed behind, the denim jacket she'd once given him resting across his knees. Hours passed. People came and went. He didn't move. Not once. When she finally appeared again, her hair stuck to her face, eyes red but relief softening her expression, she froze at the sight of him still sitting there. "You stayed," she whispered. He stood up, meeting her eyes. "Of course I did." Her throat tightened, words breaking into breath. "No one's ever done that before." He nodded once, his voice low. "Now someone has." It started with a picture, blurry, caught in bad light, but enough. Logan's hand on her back as she carried Lucas out of the hospital. No context, no truth. Just a moment stolen and twisted. By morning, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Headlines everywhere. Tech mogul's secret family. Mystery woman and child identified. Her manager at the diner stopped looking her in the eye. Parents at daycare whispered. Every ping from her phone felt like a stone to the chest. That evening, Logan sent a message. "Can we talk?" She almost didn't go. But part of her needed to hear what he'd say. The cafe was nearly empty. He sat in the back, head low, voice quiet when she approached. "I didn't mean for this to happen." She kept her arms folded. "You didn't take the photo. But it's my life they're tearing apart." He tried to speak again, but she shook her head. "You'll get a headline. I get a label I didn't ask for." Her voice didn't break. It sharpened. Stronger than he'd ever heard it. For the first time, he saw her not as the woman who'd helped him home, but as someone standing against an entire world that wanted to make her small. And in that moment, the balance between them shifted. She wasn't the one who needed saving. He was. He watched her fight to keep her walls up. Every word he said, she met with silence, then the smallest shake of her head. "I want to help," he said finally. "Not by fixing what isn't broken, by making things safer for you." For Lucas. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "Work for me," he said. "Be my personal driver. Officially. Better pay. No strangers, no gossip." She froze. That sounds like charity. No, he said, his tone steady now. It's trust. You don't fake anything, and I need that. Her voice dropped low. You think this is pity? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. When's the last time someone asked what you wanted, Jennifer? The question hit like a crack in glass. She stared at him, searching for the trick in it. I don't remember, she whispered finally. Then let's start there, he said quietly. Something shifted inside her, something she'd kept buried too long. She wanted to say yes, but wanting anything for herself had always come with a cost. And that realization frightened her more than the world watching ever could. She said yes quietly, almost like she was afraid the word might sound too hopeful. After that, everything moved fast. Days blurred together, drives to meetings, waiting outside glass doors, voices rising and falling behind them. She didn't speak much, but she saw everything. Who smiled too wide? Who whispered too long? Who looked at Logan like they were waiting for him to fall? One afternoon, as they left another boardroom, he looked at her and said, "You pay attention." "I have to," she replied, eyes forward. "Missing a detail can cost everything." He smiled faintly, but something in his chest tightened. She wasn't just keeping him on schedule, she was steadying him in ways he hadn't realized he needed. Soon, it wasn't just the meetings or the business that felt different when she was around. It was the quiet after, the part of the day that belonged only to them. He found himself depending on that silence, on her calm. More than the reports, more than the deals, he needed her presence to feel like the world still made sense. She was waiting in the hallway, files pressed against her chest, when she heard it. Laughter, easy, careless, sharp enough to cut. "So, Logan," one of the men joked, "is the blonde assistant your latest innovation?" More laughter followed. No one stopped it. No one corrected it. Her grip on the folder tightened, knuckles white. She didn't move, didn't breathe, just listened as the joke twisted her into something cheap. When the meeting ended, she walked beside him in silence. He talked about next week's plans, unaware of the storm building inside her. She only nodded, her voice gone. At the curb, she pulled the car to a stop. "We're here." No glance, no goodbye. That night, she didn't show up. The next day, her number went dark. By the second, he knew. He sat in his office with his phone still in hand, staring at the unread messages. When his assistant mentioned the comment from that meeting, the truth hit like thunder. "She thought she was just another passing interest," he said under his breath. She was wrong. But she was gone, and all the power in the world couldn't make her stay. He stood outside her door, rain soaking through his jacket, his heartbeat louder than the thunder behind him. When the lock clicked and the door opened just enough for her to appear, he didn't wait for her to speak. "I needed to see you." Her eyes were tired, guarded. "I didn't leave because of what they said," she said quietly. "I left because of what you didn't." He swallowed hard. "I didn't hear it." "It's not about that," she interrupted. "I don't need rescuing, Logan." He stepped closer, his voice barely steady. "I didn't come to rescue you. I came because I miss you." For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them felt like a held breath. Then she shook her head, slow and certain. "Goodbye, Logan." The door closed softly. But the sound carried through him like a crack, quiet, final, louder than any scream could ever be. 2 days passed before she noticed the envelope lying just inside the door. No name, no mark, just folded once, like someone couldn't decide whether to leave it or take it back. She sat with it for hours before opening it. The handwriting was familiar, careful, almost hesitant. "You saw a tired man who needed to get home. Nothing has felt the same since. I don't want to fix you. I just miss you." Her fingers trembled over the words. She set the letter down but couldn't walk away from it. Lucas wandered in, rubbing his eyes. Did you write that? She shook her head. Logan did. He stared at it for a moment, thinking the way only a child could. Why don't you give him a chance, like you always tell me? Her breath caught. She wanted to explain that grown-ups were different, that hurt ran deeper, but no words came. After he'd fallen asleep, she sat on the couch, the letter still open beside her. For a long time, she stared at her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen. Then she typed slowly, her chest tight but her heart certain. Let's talk soon. When they met again, there was no grand gesture, no audience, just a quiet cafe and 2 cups of coffee growing cold between them. Neither of them apologized. They didn't need to. The silence between them carried enough truth to fill the space. He looked at her like he'd been waiting to breathe. She looked at him like she finally could. After that day, it stopped being complicated. He started showing up, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with nothing but time. Weekends turned into something steady. Lucas racing ahead in the park, Logan chasing after him, pretending not to lose. Jennifer watching, heart lighter than she remembered it could be. One morning, she walked into the kitchen to find him at the stove, sleeves rolled up, batter everywhere. What are you doing? She asked, half amused. Trying to impress your son, he said, flipping a pancake that landed sideways. Jennifer laughed, real, unguarded laughter that filled the room and stopped him in his tracks. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it felt alive. And for the first time, it felt like both of them were learning how to live again. His birthday came quietly, like something he'd rather ignore. No plans, no reminders. He expected it to pass the way it always did, with meetings, emails, and silence. But when he walked into her apartment that evening, everything stopped. Paper streamers hung across the wall, uneven and taped at odd angles. A small cake sat on the table, lopsided, the candle leaning slightly to the side. Jennifer stood near the counter, wiping her hands on a towel. Lucas beamed, wearing a paper crown. For a long moment, Logan couldn't speak. No one's ever done this for me, he said softly. It's not much, she replied, smiling in that quiet way that always undid him. It's everything. They ate the crooked cake, Lucas declaring it the best one ever made, and for the first time in his life, Logan felt like he belonged in a moment instead of owning it. Later, they walked through the park where everything had begun. Lucas ran ahead, chasing nothing in particular. Logan stopped, turned to her, and held out a small box. Inside, a simple gold ring. No diamonds. Just 3 words engraved inside, one day at a time. I'll mess up, he said, voice trembling just a little. But I'll stay. Jennifer stared at the ring, then at him, the same man she'd once driven home through rain, half asleep and lost. Her eyes softened, the faintest smile tugging at her lips. Then yes, she whispered. The wedding was small, nothing grand, nothing staged. Just the people who mattered. Fairy lights strung across the yard, laughter spilling from every corner. Lucas walked down the aisle carefully, holding the rings like they were treasure. When Logan took her hands, his voice caught halfway through his vows. I've made money, he said, pausing long enough to steady himself, but this is the first time I've made something real. Jennifer blinked back tears as Lucas clapped before anyone else did. For the first time, it felt like life had stopped rushing long enough for her to feel safe inside it. That night, they sat on the rooftop, the world glowing far below. She leaned against him, quiet, content. You happy? She asked softly. He let out a slow breath. Finally. Her smile was small, steady. The kind that comes from peace earned, not promised. But somewhere beneath that stillness, the world that once watched them burn hadn't turned away. Because when scandals fade, the powerful never forget. And some stories, no matter how carefully rewritten, refuse to stay buried.